May only your word be spoken, O Lord. May only your word be heard. Amen. Please be seated. As I mentioned earlier, preaching a little about perfection and how perfection is not really what we're actually striving for in life. It's not really for us. Perfection isn't. We're not particularly good at perfection, although we often strive for perfection, and it leads us right off the rails. It's unrealistic, unobtainable, and yet we tend to keep having these desires for perfection in ourselves and others, and our desires for perfection do tend to make us fight with each other. Whoever is closer to perfect gets more money. Whoever is closer to perfection is seen not only as being worth more, but also more worthy of anything and everything good in life. Look at the latest bill passed by our Congress. Those with the greatest economic output get the greatest benefit from this bill, while those with the least economic output get harmed the most by this bill. The president's bill follows this lie of perfectionism that the best are worth the most and the worst are worth the least. That runs completely counter to Jesus' teaching and completely counter to God's view of human worth. All are worthy not for being more or less perfect. All are worthy simply for being. We are all God's children. We are all equally worthy of love and belonging, honor and respect. We are all worth the same human dignity, regardless of how nearly perfect or drastically imperfect we may seem. And how do I know this? Two things: Jesus' teachings and Jesus' death on the cross. Look at Jesus' teaching. In Matthew 20, Jesus told a parable of a landowner who had a vineyard, and he went out to get laborers to work in that vineyard. Early on, he found some folks, and they worked all day, and he told them he would pay them a living wage. Later in the morning, he found some others who could work part of the day. Again, he found others to work starting at noon, then mid-afternoon, and finally he found some folks who were still looking for work and hadn't been hired, so he hired them just to work 1 hour. At the end of the day, he paid everyone the same. Everyone received a living wage, which is what they needed to survive. Those who had worked the full, perfect day were outraged because they hadn't received more who only worked that woefully insufficient hour. They weren't perfect. They don't deserve as much. Not so, the landowner said. They were only able to work for an hour, but they still need to live a full 24 hours in a day. They were just as worthy of getting to live as those who had been able to work all day. Our ideas of perfection and worth based on productivity run totally counter to Jesus' teachings. So what about Jesus' death on the cross? Did Jesus die for the worthy or the unworthy? He died for all. Worthy, unworthy, greater, lesser, middling. Jesus died to join all of humanity and all of humanity's sins and mistakes to God. We're told in Hebrews that Jesus was the perfect sacrifice to atone for humanity's sins. And we're told that Jesus made the perfect sacrifice because we couldn't make the perfect sacrifice. If we look at the prophets, though, we find that God didn't really want a sacrifice at all. God wanted us to treat one another like the landowner treated those workers in Jesus' parable. God wanted us to bear one another's burdens and to live the law of love for one another. We're never going to be perfect at it, and God never expected perfection from us. We're human. We're screwed up. We can't be perfect. God knows this. So God became the perfect sacrifice for us, essentially telling us, y'all, the perfect sacrifice has been done. It's finished once for all. So you don't need to do any more of this sacrifice things on the altar type stuff. The sacrifice was done and it was perfect. Y'all don't need to be. So stop worrying about being perfect and get on with loving one another. Get on with bearing one another's burdens. Get on with treating one another as equally worthy of love and belonging, honor and respect. Jesus was that perfect sacrifice for us, not because God needed it, but because we did. We thought we had to be perfect. We couldn't be, and God finally said, guys, I'll just do it for you. Because you can't be perfect and you don't need to be, but you want to be, so I'll do it for you. God stepped in to help us because our self-sufficiency was not enough. And that continues on in all of our lives. Jesus joining with us to help us when our power, our self-sufficiency is not enough. Because we're not meant to be in this life alone. We're not meant to be perfect. And we're not meant to be in this thing alone. We're meant to share this life with others. And we're meant to seek help from God. And with that help, we then can accomplish what we can't do on our own. And with that help, we can be in greater unity and love with one another. And do together what we can't do on our own. And then for all those times when we hurt one another and screw up, God's already made amends for that, so we can then make amends with each other. We don't have to become right with God. We are. We can get on with the business of loving one another. That's a lot of the message that Jesus told his disciples to go and preach to others, because the world was pretty messed up. And the world is still pretty messed up. And people still need that message, that we don't need to be perfect. That it's not the great who are worthy and the not great who aren't worthy. We're all worthy. And any law or supposed gospel that preaches that only those who produce a lot or who work a lot or who are worth a lot of money, only they're the ones who are truly worthy. Well, any gospel like that, any law like that, is completely anti the gospel. So we get to go out and proclaim this message to others. And what did Jesus say about those who wouldn't hear it, who didn't want to hear it? We heard last week that his disciples wanted to rain fire down upon them. And Jesus said, no. When people don't hear it, we say, okay. And we go. And we leave them, hopefully, in peace. But we don't lose ourselves in it and get so upset. We let our peace remain. And we take our peace with us. And we go on to bring peace to others. And if they don't accept it, that's okay. We don't force them. We just say, peace be upon you. And we go. Because even our sharing of the gospel doesn't have to be perfect. And I'd love to say that I had a good ending to this sermon, but I don't, and it's actually not even finished. But I figure that's okay, because it doesn't have to be perfect.